All right, guys, it is 8:05. Looks like we got a bunch of guys who've shown up, so let's get started with today's class. I, as you probably know, am Chris Shepard.
I'm Derek Cajun. So welcome back to Charisma Decoded. Now in Module 3. We're getting into this. It's good. And love the feedback you guys, and of course the interaction you guys have been doing on the Facebook group. Very good.
Yeah.
Loving that. You guys it looks like you're keeping up to date with the homework and posting it, and there's a lot of interaction in there, so that's great to see.
Yeah, and there's probably some guys on this video also who haven't, maybe are just tuning in for the first time. There's some guys who missed the first two classes. Don't worry, we are going to build off of what we taught in the first two classes, but you can totally attend this class and then go back through it and also go back through it again. I think because I'm going to be touching back again on some stuff that I taught in the last class, really briefly, but going into much more depth with it. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a really good class. You guys are going to get a lot out of this. We do have the live chat here on YouTube. So if you're watching this on the Charisma Decoded page and you're watching it live, you can click through and you can ask us questions in the YouTube live chat. That's probably the best way to get messages to us right away. We will also be checking on the Charisma Decoded page, but it doesn't update for us as automatically. So you're more likely to get an answer on the YouTube chat.
Yes, great stuff. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to talk about before you get into it.
No, I'm ready to go.
All right, I'm going to pass this over to Chris, and you guys can start your next module.
All right, guys. Today's class is The Secret of Attraction, and if you have taken my boot camp before or you've followed my YouTube video, you're probably going to understand. You're probably going to already know what my theory of The Secret of Attraction is, but I'm going to go over it again really briefly, and I'm going to be going into much more depth than I have gone on my blog or in any of the YouTube videos of mine that you can find. So even though this starts out a little bit like, okay, I've heard this stuff before, don't be impatient. We're going to go into a lot more depth. We're going to go into, I want to give you guys some really practical and really useful advice that you can use for creating attraction, because obviously that's probably the number one thing that guys want. Number one reason why guys are taking this course is they want to demystify attraction. They want to be able to break it down. They want to be able to know when they are making a mistake, how to avoid making mistakes when you get women interested in you, and also how to not just avoid making mistakes, but how to actually proactively do the right thing so that when you are meeting women that you're attracted to, that there's something mutual going on. So that's what this course is about, and I think the answers you're going to get out of this class are going to be pretty satisfying. There's a lot of guys out there who a lot of people think it's really mysterious how attraction works, and I don't think it's that mysterious. And so what I'm going to present to you guys, this course is about a simple theory of attraction that you can use anytime to know how to create, keep, and avoid losing attraction. And I say avoid losing because a lot of guys, if you're the average guy, you might think that attraction is really hard to get, that women have unreasonably high standards. But in fact, probably what's happening is you are getting attraction from women quite often, and you are then blowing it. And I'm of the philosophy that women don't necessarily have much higher standards than men. That they are not. The average woman likes the average guy, and so women are getting attracted to guys all the time. The difference is, though, is for a guy, if you're attracted to a woman and she says, "Hey, wanna sleep with me?" most guys will say yes to that. Whereas for a woman, if she's just attracted to a guy and he doesn't do the right things, even though she's attracted, she's still probably going to say no to him. She's not going to necessarily sleep with him right away, because attraction in women is a more complicated process than it is with guys. All right, and specifically, the other thing is, for me, if you see a beautiful woman and she says or does something dumb, well, she's still attractive. You don't immediately lose attraction for her, although there are obviously things that women can do that make you lose attraction. But for women, attraction is something that's very fickle. And so she can be totally into you, right? Totally, totally into you, and then you just do one thing wrong, and all of a sudden she's like, "I never liked that guy. I don't know what I was thinking." And if I remember when I would be in those situations when I was younger, I go, "Oh, well, I guess you didn't really like me. I guess I didn't do enough to get attraction." But actually, I had gotten attraction, and then I had lost it because I made mistakes. So, the first question I want to go over, I want to go into depth. This is the one that has bothered men for millennia, is what do women want? What do women actually want? Because that's what attraction is about ultimately, right? So there's a good quote from Sigmund Freud that goes, "The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is what does a woman want?" So Sigmund Freud didn't have an answer to this question. I think, any guy who's been in a relationship knows that it's a very complicated question. And this is a question that I asked myself when I was 20 years old, 21 years old, was in university, and I'd gotten "let's just be friends" from girls about 10 times in a row or something like that. And I was like, okay, what do women want? All right. And so I asked all kinds of people. I asked psychologists. I looked into the psychology books. I looked into the dating books. I looked at movies and pop culture and stuff to try to find answers. Like what does a guy do to get women attracted to you? What do you do to be that attractive guy? And I got no good answers. I mean, what I found was that psychologists they study these questions only very tangentially. They don't really go into actually what makes people attracted to one another, because they don't know. They have a hard time. It's not something you can just you can separate out. It's not something you can study in a research project. Writers are mostly more interested in building an audience and being controversial and getting attention than they are in actually giving good advice. Hollywood movies, again, just trying to make people mostly feel good about themselves. So, in a Hollywood movie, everybody likes seeing like a guy that you can relate to get the girl, So it's always the like clueless, kind of bumbling guy, doesn't really do much. Somehow he not only saves the world from aliens, but the beautiful girl falls in love with him. And in these stories, they're wish fulfillment fantasies. The fact is, your average bumbling, clueless guy is, I guess, maybe a little bit more likely to get the girl than he is to actually save the world from aliens. But let's be honest, neither of these things are very, very likely. They just make for a good story. And then there's women, and I would ask my female friends for advice on dating and attraction. And for them, it was, I would get advice from women. And here's the thing. Women love giving dating advice, all right? In fact, one thing that I experience whenever I tell people what I do for a living, whenever I tell a woman what I do for a living, and like a girl I'm dating, almost like more than half the time, this is the response I get. "Oh, are you hiring? Because I would make a great dating coach." Most women think they would make a great dating coach. And the fact is, it's probably not true. But they love to give dating advice. And if you ask them, they will give you all kinds of opinions. And the problem is these opinions are not terribly useful. And I usually make the analogy that asking women for advice on dating or attraction is like asking a restaurant critic for cooking advice. Because a restaurant critic knows what they like. Restaurant critic has eaten at all of the best steakhouses in town, right? The restaurant critics know a lot about food. But they only know about food from the perspective of somebody who eats, all right? They have not been in the kitchen. They have not cooked the food. And so when a restaurant critic, when you ask a restaurant critic, how do you cook a steak? They'll say, "Oh, well, don't cook it too much, but don't undercook it. Don't make it too salty," right? That's what a restaurant critic will say. But the problem is, that doesn't give you any advice on how to cook a steak. And women do the same thing. They'll say, you want to be confident, but not too confident. Don't be cocky. you want to take her someplace nice, but don't try to be too fancy. Especially be confident, but don't be too confident. Well, how confident should I be? That's the question. And it's exactly like saying don't overcook the steak and don't undercook the steak. It's true, but it's not useful because you have no freaking, like, tell me what temperature I cook the steak at for how long. That's the information you need to know. But unfortunately, women are unable to give you that kind of information because they've never been in the situation where they have to deal with that kind of thing. So women, getting dating advice from women, unfortunately, it's misleading most of the time, or not very useful. So where do you go for advice? You got to go for advice from guys who actually know what they're talking about. Guys who've been in the kitchen. Guys who are good with women and who haven't been good with women their entire lives. So they have some kind of perspective. They know what it's like to go from here to there. So we know that society and women themselves are not necessarily a good source of advice on how to create attraction. And like I said, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to share with you my secret of attraction, but I want to take you guys through an exercise to bring out like your beliefs about what women find attractive. So I'd like you to ask this question and please put the answers to this into the chat. What do you think women want from a man? So three questions here. What do you think women want from a man? What do women say? What would a woman say she wants from a man? And what does the average guy think that women want from a man? Because it's slightly, sort of the same question asked three different ways. So first question, what do you think women want from a man? And if you've already taken my boot camp, you might already know the answer that I give. So I'm just gonna pass on the people who get it right on the first guess because it messes up the exercise. So we got one person says to be led. Good. Confidence is a great one. Confidence is a really big thing that women find attractive. What else? We got more. Confidence, strength, good conversation, companionship. Awesome. That's a really good answer. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's talk about what would women, if you asked women what they want from a man, what would they say? Because here's the thing, they're telling the truth, but again, it's kind of telling the truth in the way that like a restaurant critic might tell you the truth about how to cook a steak. It's the truth. But it doesn't make sense unless you understand a little bit more about dating than women give you. So Greg says to be with a leader, to be with someone exciting, and stability. Good. We got humor, excitement. Humor is a really big one. If you ask women what they like in a man, humor is super duper important. And yeah, okay. So other answers women give, they'll say a nice guy. Yep, nice guy is true. It's just not. Again, it's like don't overcook the steak kind of stuff. Confident, fun, smart, nice. Good. Nice, funny, adventurous guy. Stole that from dating profiles. Thoughtful, funny guy. Compatible, chemistry. I just want a nice guy. Awesome. And then, okay, now picture your guy friends, all right? And you ask them, what do women really like? What would they say? All right? Or even your average guy. What are those guys going to say? Let's see. So women will say that they want honesty, humor, caring, dependable. Cool. Okay, so guys will say assholes, bad boys, yeah. Buff dude, rich, friendly, yeah. Tall, yeah. Yeah, I think we've got a bunch of answers here. So Ryan Gosling. All right. So here's the deal. All of these are all. This is like there's like an allegory where there's three blind men who are touching an elephant, and one guy is up at the trunk and he's like, oh, it's a snake, and the other guy is at the leg and he's like, oh, it's a tree, and another person's pulling on the ear and he's like, oh, it's like a palm or something like that, and they're all touching the same thing from different perspectives, and they're not able to piece together the truth. None of these guys are able to realize that they're touching an elephant. And that's kind of what happens when you get these get your advice from all these different sources. Is you're getting a little bit of the picture, but you're only able to get the full picture when you put all of this evidence together. Because all of these people are telling you something that's more or less true. I mean, there's nothing that anybody mentioned in the chat here that I think women are totally not attracted to. And they all boil down to a couple of different categories. Here's the thing. They all boil down, all these answers that we've gotten from all these different sources, they all boil down to 3 key elements that can be defined in the following simple sentence, simple definition, all right? And this is my simple definition of attraction it's very profound, but it doesn't seem so at first. And that's what this whole class is all about. Is that attraction in women is the feeling of being desired by a powerful man she can trust. So, what does that mean? Let me put up the I'll put up the slide for you guys. Attraction in women is the feeling of being desired by a powerful man she can trust. What does that mean? It means when women say they want a guy who is when they want a guy who has a good sense of humor. What is humor about? It's about intelligence. It's about a little bit of that inner power. All right. Confidence. What is confidence about? It's about power. It's about that inner power. When she wants to be led, when she wants a guy who's a badass, when she wants a guy who is when she wants a guy who's smart, or that's about power. When she wants a nice guy, what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? It means she wants somebody that she can trust. It means that she wants somebody who's got integrity. It doesn't mean she wants some guy who's just the nice guys interpret this the wrong way, right? They think that it means, oh, she wants a guy who's just going to spend money on her or who does whatever she likes. But what she really wants is she wants somebody with integrity, who she can trust. And yeah, why do women like assholes? Why do some women like assholes? Because that asshole gives her the feeling of being desired by a powerful man. And sometimes these guys who you perceive as assholes are trustworthy if you're in a relationship with them. So when you are able to create this feeling in a woman, when you can give her the feeling of being desired by a powerful man she can trust, that is at least 90% of attraction. That is what you need to do to create attraction. And if you mess up on any one of these elements, all right, you mess up on any one of these elements, you are going to lose attraction. So the 3 elements are the feeling of being desired by a powerful man that you can trust. Desire, power, trust. Or in the order that I like to describe them in, it's really trust, power, desire. Trust, power, desire. 3 things. You need all of them, and you will have a very easy time creating attraction if you can hit all those buttons. And if you fail on any one of those things, you're going to lose attraction. And this is important. You can't do 2 of them really well and then fail on the 3rd. And that's what a lot of guys wind up doing. That's one of the mistakes that all these guys doing. So what I'm going to do for the rest of this class is we're going to go into a lot of detail on these 3 elements and how you can use them in your next date, in your life going forward, to do a better job of creating attraction with women and to make fewer mistakes and to get more successes, because that's what this is all about. All right. So here's what happens. So the order is trust, power, desire. So here's what happens when you don't create trust with women. All right. First, women feel creeped out when you approach. All right. If you don't create trust, if you come and when I say you don't create trust, it's if you come across like an untrustworthy guy in the bar, perhaps because you're shy, because you're like why should I be doing this? This doesn't, this body language that I'm showing you does not make one feel like they trust you. It might be social anxiety is actually the reason why you are coming across that way. But if you act or believe like you are doing something wrong, if you act or believe like if you are not integrated, if your beliefs aren't in touch with the actions that you are taking, you are going to give off an untrustworthy vibe. You're going to give off a vibe that has a lack of integrity. And women pick that up in a way that is often much more profound than the way that guys do this. Women can feel this much more acutely than men, and they're going to feel creeped out, and you're going to have a hard time getting past the opener. When you lack trust, also, women don't buy into your conversation. So let's say you open with a line. Now, lines can be perfectly good for getting over anxiety, let's say. But at the end of the day, if the question isn't something that is authentic to you, then women aren't going to buy into the conversation. They're gonna quickly lose interest, and they're not going to really be feeling it. So I do think that lines have a perfectly good place for guys who have trouble talking to strangers altogether. But really, when you start the conversation, you got to have that integrity. You got to be talking to her about something that you want to talk about, and it can be something ridiculous. It can be your line for this evening or something like that. It doesn't have to be like completely spontaneous, but there has to be that integrity there where you actually care about the things that you're talking about. And when that happens, you're gonna see a massive different reaction in the way that women react to you when you start talking to them. Other things when you lack trust, if later on in the interaction. If you mess up trust, they like you, but they don't feel comfortable being with you. Sometimes they will play a lot of games. If you're on a date, let's say, or you've gotten somewhere, because you can mess up trust at any point in the interaction, right? Like, some guys, obviously, if you screw it up right at the beginning, it makes it really hard to make anything happen further on. But you can mess up trust after you've gotten her phone number. You can certainly do it once you're in a relationship. These things happen a lot. And so what you'll find a lot of times is women play a lot of games when there's a lack of trust there. And she'll often call you out. She'll say things like, "Oh, I don't know where we're going in this relationship. I don't know if I know the real you." She'll say things like that, and those are your warning signs that maybe you're not. It's your warning sign that you're not maybe acting with full integrity, and she can feel like she feels like something else is going on, and this lack of trust is more damaging to any kind of relationship than anything you could be honest about most of the time. Like, if you have women will forgive you for doing things wrong, but they won't forgive you if they can't trust you, period. All right. So having that integrity is really key to it really changes the way that women treat you. So how do you create trust? So I've talked about the problems that happens when you don't have trust, when you violate it. What happens? How do you get trust? How do you build it with the women that you're talking to? One, when you start the conversation, trust is about having no agenda and giving an air of authenticity. So like online, it can be about confessing that you feel like it's weird to be on an online dating site. All right, that's truthful, probably, if it is truthful for you. When you communicate that with her and you open up to her, she's going to go, "Oh, this is a guy who's being genuine," and she'll often respond really positively to that, right? It's about talking about nothing sometimes. It's about being really relaxed in the way that you're having conversation, the way that you talk with your friends, where you don't give a crap. You're not trying to impress your friends, right? You don't go into your interactions with your buddies and go, "Oh, I wonder what Derek thinks about me. I better talk about the cool things that I'm doing." No, you don't. You're relaxed, and that kind of vibe creates a lot of trust. Really helps you in the interaction. In conversation, creating trust means speaking your mind and not lying to please her. All right, this is a big mistake that a lot of guys do, especially guys who like get into pickup and stuff like that, or get into, you know, they're trying to improve their dating life. They're like, what do I say to make women like me more? And the answer is, you say the truth even if it upsets her, and that is usually going to be the best thing. Usually the women are pretty understanding about this kind of thing. So you know, I mean, you talk about politics, you gotta, you know, maybe you disagree with her and you do it in a respectful way. You talk about the things that you care about, and don't hide it. If you're into sports, don't pretend like you're not into sports. That's going to ruin your integrity. All right. Later on in the interaction means keeping your word and doing what you say. This is really, really important if you want to get into a serious relationship with a woman. Keeping your word and doing what you say, which means, again, I always keep my word, especially with my girlfriend. And to the point where I will get into a big fight where I'll say, no, I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to do this, because I know I can't keep that promise, rather than back down, make a promise that I know I'm not going to keep, and back out. And even like when you just meet a woman, I mean, one thing that it's really important. One thing I think really, really helps. I'll tell a girl that I'm gonna call her tomorrow, and I call her when I said I was going to call her. I don't call her like at exactly the right time, the same time that I said I would necessarily. Like you don't have to be too strict about it. But if you're a guy who says he's going to call and you call, that shows integrity. It shows you're a reliable guy. You'd be surprised how much that benefits you. And you know, a lot of guys, like, especially like standard pickup advice is like, no, you got to be unpredictable. Don't be like the average boring dude who does everything that he says he's going to do. And that's absolutely wrong. It's really bad advice, really harmful advice, because it'll mess you up. You should not be a boring guy, for sure. All right, but there's nothing exciting about being a guy who says he's going to call and then doesn't call. Like that's by all means, be exciting, be super exciting, be totally freaking badass. All right, you can do all this stuff, but just telling chicks you're going to call them and not calling them does not make you some exciting dude. All right, drive a motorcycle, you know, go travel wherever the hell you want, hang out with the people you want, do what you want. Cool, awesome. That's exciting and unpredictable. All right, but trying to feign in unpredictability and being an exciting dude by just flaking on promises that you keep is not the way to do it. So don't do that kind of stuff. It's keep your word and do what you say. Really, really, really helps things out, especially when you're talking about being in a relationship. But even in very casual relationships, being a trustworthy guy, being a guy with integrity will help you a lot. And being a guy who's flaky and unreliable, even if she's just a booty call, if you're not a reliable booty call, that might not last very long. All right. And then ultimately, trust is about having integrity. It's about being the same person on the inside and out. And this goes back a little bit to what I was talking about on the first class, right? About being the guy who's integrated. So integrated and integrity, they're related, right? If you're a guy who your ethics and your beliefs and your goals and your actions are all in the same direction, it's very easy to have integrity because you don't have those internal conflicts, right? Those internal conflicts that I showed you in that diagram from the other week, where you're going off in all different directions. Those internal conflicts, not only are they your will or your energy going off in different directions, but sometimes they're differing priorities, right? Oh, well, you know, I wanna work on my career, but I also want to work on my my art, and so I'm going to hide my artwork from my boss, and these two things are in conflict with one another. You're not picking one that is your real priority, and you have to lie, or you feel like you have to lie because you have these two conflicting desires. and you're not willing to reconcile them by putting one above the other and by really, really choosing. And that's the kind of situation. That's the kind of situation where an average, like, good, normal dude might find himself compromising his integrity. Just because he's being indecisive about something. All right, so being the same person on the inside and out means reconciling those conflicts with yourself. And like I said, not only is that going to help you to achieve your goals by becoming a more integrated person, but it's actually going to help you build trust with women, because women will be able to sense that. Women will be able to sense that you're a guy who, okay, yeah, you do put your, she knows where your priorities are. She knows what you want out of life, and so she can trust that. All right, power. The next one is power. So let's talk about what power looks like when you don't have it. All right, what having a lack of power looks like in an interaction. Okay, so what does it look like? One, a lot of time you might find that women talk over you and take the conversation down paths that go nowhere. Now, women talking over you in normal situations, not a big deal. Doesn't matter, right? I'm not telling you guys that you have to always speak over women. But when you're meeting a woman for the first time, let's say you're meeting her in a bar or something like that, and, you want the conversation to go somewhere. So if you start talking about something that you find interesting, or you're taking the conversation in a certain direction, she's like, "Oh my gosh, let me tell you about this," and is controlling the conversation and wresting it back into her control, that might be caused by a lack of assertiveness, a little bit of a lack of inner power on your side. Other things that come from a lack of power is women give you a hard time. All right, women, you guys probably noticed this. Women do give you a hard time, especially you meet women in bars. They're going to give you a hard time all the time. They're going to go, "Oh, why are you talking to me? Who are you?" Usually they're testing you. All right, like if a woman says "get lost," that's not a test. But if she says stuff like "why are you talking to me," that's something where if you gave a good answer, she would probably smile and go, "Okay, keep talking." She wouldn't say that, but she would think that, right? So if women give you a hard time, they're testing you to see if you have that inner strength, right? And if you're failing, then that's going to blow you out. That's going to end the conversation. You're going to fold when something like that happens. Sometimes you get bossed around and bullied. Again, this can happen in clubs where women are rude. Like I said, some women are just rude, but a lot of the time this has to do with you looking like a victim and somebody that can easily be bullied. And so if you just, nobody can bully you without your permission. And so if you're somebody who practices standing up for themselves, this is not going to happen to you. People might try, and you go, no. But also, when you lack power, women will often start to see you as a nice guy, but there's not any chemistry. And here's the thing: power is one of these things that it depends on her, right? So different women have different ideas of power. For some women, it's a cowboy or a police officer or a fireman, and for others, it's guys who are successful as a businessman, or some women like guys who are jerks, right? Other women have healthy ideas of what a powerful man is, and a lot of it has to do with how she grew up. For a lot of women, it's, a powerful man. Her archetype for a powerful man might be her father, and it all has to do with how she grew up, and what growing up she perceived as a powerful man. And so there's different kinds of archetypes. If we're talking about clothing or the way you dress or the way you present yourself, how the kind of powerful man you express yourself as is going to influence the kinds of women who are attracted to you, right? So if you follow a rock star archetype, you're gonna do best with women who are drawn to that kind of archetype. If you look like a badass motorcyclist or something like that, you're gonna find women who are into that, being drawn towards you. Now the good thing is it's not too specific, but you can think about that when you're presenting yourself. Think about that in the way that you're dressing. Most good like when I'm helping guys on fashion consults, a lot of the time what I'm thinking, what I'm trying to do in the way that I dress them is I'm finding colors that match and stuff like that. But a lot of it is about finding out what kind of masculine, powerful archetype best fits them, and how do I what kind of clothes highlight that element of their personality, or that element of their style. So these are the things, this is what that power is about. And ultimately power is about, again, it's about having that integrated personality, all right? It's about being that guy who has passion and is moving in the right direction. Like that is a massive source of inner power. Is just when you have all your goals and your values aligned, and you know what you believe in, you know what you think. And that's why, like, when women give you a hard time, if you know your value and you know your worth, when women give you a hard time, you just go, oh, you chuckle, you laugh at it. That's the way I respond when I get teased by women, and it happens all the time when you talk to women in bars. Oh, why are you talking to me? Oh, you look like fun. What's your name? And I don't care. I don't react to it, because her giving me a hard time does not affect my self-esteem in any kind of way. I'm going in with positive energy. If she gives me a little bit of a hard time, I'm still going on with positive energy. But communicating that, and then the other thing is being assertive. So a big part of that power is being assertive, being somebody who asks for what he wants and goes after what he wants. And when it comes to assertiveness, so there's 3 different ways that you can relate to people. There is aggressive, passive, and assertive is in the middle. So aggressive is trying to control other people. All right. Passive is allowing other people to control you. And assertive is controlling yourself, but not trying to control other people. And that's an assertive person. The assertive way of dealing with people is the most powerful way of dealing with people. Because aggressive people, like a lot of people confuse assertiveness with aggressiveness. So an aggressive guy will say, give me your phone number. I want your phone number. Give it to me. Come on. All right. He'll plead, he'll beg, or he'll sort of maybe be intimidating even. He'll be bossy. That's not powerful. Why? Because aggressive people, ultimately you can't control what other people do, so aggressive people are just wasting their energy. Passive people let other people do the opposite. They let other people control them. So a passive person will tend to say something like, oh, well, it would be nice to get your number. I don't know if you wanted to, give me your number maybe. All right? Passive people also not powerful, and that's because they obviously they're letting other people influence their decision, let other people boss them around, let other people take action for them, and women very often find that unattractive. And at the end of the day, other people don't have your interest in stake, so you don't, other people aren't going to give you what you want as much as you are going to give yourself what you want. And so assertiveness is saying something like, I really want your phone number. I want to see you again. All right? I'm not telling her what to do. I'm telling her that I really want her phone number. I might say, I really want your phone number. I want to take you out for dinner. We're going to have a really good time. All right? Once again, I'm not necessarily telling her what to do, but I'm not being shy at all about communicating what I want and what I like and what I think is a good idea and what I think maybe she should do. I think you should do this. You can do whatever you want. I think you should do this. That's the way I'm going to frame it. And even if she says, oh, I usually don't give my number out to guys, I'll go, okay, that's fine. Are you single? Yeah, I'm single. So is that not giving your phone number thing out to guys working for you? No, I guess not. You should give me your phone number. Again, it's not pushy. It's just in an assertive way, letting her know, hey, trust me, you're going to like hanging out with me because I believe very strongly that I am an awesome guy to spend time with. So power can mean many things. Power is influenced by her culture and her background. Outer power helps, but inner power is what really matters. So outer power is things like money and social status. These things totally help by all means. I mean, certainly like social status. I mean, a lot of the guys we talked about are goals, and it's about building that lifestyle that has all of these things going together, right? But, you know, I mean, money and social status they're not things that you get just by wanting them. They are the result of something else, right? They're the result of having an inner power that gets things done, that motivates people, that is pursuing a goal that is both beneficial to you and beneficial to society, because that's the only way that you can make money or achieve success is by benefiting other people. And that outer power, that inner power, is what we talk about in this course. Because, you know, obviously, if you have money, wearing fancy clothes and showing up in a nice car, I mean, it doesn't hurt. But it does hurt if it shows a lack of inner power when you do it, right? So having money helps, but throwing your money around like you're overcompensating for something, that doesn't help, right? That doesn't help. And at the end of the day, a lot of guys ask like, oh, well, do women really like is it outer power or inner power, really? And the answer is all the way inner power. Guys, if you are broke, but you are ambitious and you have that inner power, I know plenty of guys like that, and I've been there myself. Women aren't put off by it at all. But and more importantly, like, you know, there's like they've done studies where women had the choice of, like, guys who won the lottery, for example. Women don't find those guys attractive. It's not about money. All right, even guys who inherited their money, not seen as particularly attractive. But guys who have earned their own money, these are the guys who have that inner power that produces other outcomes in life, and that is considered very, very attractive, even before the money starts to arrive. Inner power comes from being integrated, being assertive, knowing your value, and acting as if she likes you already. That's a good proxy for the knowing your value and being integrated, being assertive. Act as if she already likes you. She'll let you know if she doesn't. All right. So next one is desire. This is the last one. This is the last one, like, both chronologically, but it's also the one that it's the last one in terms of how much. And it's the last one in terms of what we sort of discovered, because if you've taken other Love Systems products, you know, you got like Magic Bullets or some of the other stuff we have, we don't really talk about desire. And in fact, there's a lot of dating advice, some of which it comes from Love Systems, but especially from other people. The idea that you shouldn't communicate desire, that you should make her not think that you're into her. And there is a tension between desire and power. So you don't want to be like, oh, I desire you so much, you could treat me like garbage and I would not care. Because that's you're selling out your power. You're throwing away your power, right? Which is what makes it unattractive. But if you keep your power and you keep that trust and you communicate desire, that you need to do that. You need to do that. You cannot really get deep attraction without doing that. All right. And it doesn't need to be like, oh, I love her, I think she's amazing. Like, it doesn't need to be roses and flowers or anything like that. Sometimes it can be very, very sexual, but you do need to be able to communicate that. If you don't communicate desire, a couple things that happen. One, if you communicate a lack of desire, if you blow a woman off, they'll go from hot to cold super fast, all right? And they'll often get angry. There's a quote from Shakespeare: "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." If a woman says, "Hey, I really like talking to you. Here's my phone number. Why don't you call me? Like, it would be nice to see you again." And you reply back like, "Oh, I'm really busy. Sorry." Just because you're clueless, right? She will get mad at you. She's going to get angry. She might not show it right to your face, but she's going to be really pissed off because you've insulted her. Even though maybe it was just because like, oh, am really busy. Why is she giving me your phone number? Because you're super duper logical and you think that way. By the way, I've done this. But if you show a lack of desire, it's gonna go sour really, really quickly, because women don't want to date guys who don't like them, and women get insulted by guys who don't like them. In fact, other things that can hurt is if you find things fizzling on the second or third date. All right, you got the second date, so she obviously liked you enough. Like, if you were ugly or a lousy conversationalist or really annoying, you would not have gotten a second date. But you get a second date, and then it's at the end of the second date or at the third date that things fizzle. That is probably a desire thing, all right? And a lot of guys, we've been led to believe that women are going to make the move, or that there's some kind of equality on this matter. And unfortunately, that is entirely untrue. And there's they did a study about phone numbers, and some people found that, 20% of women had asked a man for their phone number in the past year. And that's an interesting number. 20% of women had asked a man for their phone number in the past year, and apparently that number was way up from 2005. It had doubled or something like that. But when you think about it, okay, wait, the average woman has asked a man out. 20% of women have asked a man out in the past year. That means that the average woman asks a man out once every 5 years. That means that the average woman asks a man out, let's say between the ages of 20 and 35, when she's fertile, 3 times she might ask a guy out. Which means that unless 1 out of 3 dates that come from this wind up in marriage and children, the human race is going to just cease to exist in a couple of generations. And so you realize, no, this desire to be desired is really, really deeply ingrained in women. And if you are a guy who waits for women to make the move, you are going to be waiting, on average, at least 5 years. and the fact is probably more than that, because of course we know it's doesn't get distributed evenly to every single guy. So chemistry does not happen when you don't communicate desire. You are expected to communicate desire, and unfortunately, that it doesn't seem to be very flexible at all. So, what are the rules behind desire? 1, desire comes last. All right. So the mistakes that guys make around desire: 1 is the guy who goes, "Wow, you're hot. Hey, how's it going?" All right. That is the guy who hoots and hollers at women. All right, he's screwing up because he hasn't distinguished himself from any other guys. He hasn't established himself as a guy who has power or is worthy of trust before he shows any desire. He's just showing desire first, and he comes across like a buffoon. He's throwing his power away. He's not coming across trustworthy at all. That's why women find stuff like that annoying. All right, but if you have that power and trust, you can do that. You do that to your girlfriend. She might be embarrassed or kind of annoyed, but she will appreciate it because you're a man who she perceives as powerful and who she can trust. The other thing guys do wrong is so doing desire right at the beginning, doing desire too late. You do have a limited time frame before she starts to think that you're not into her. And the other mistake that guys make is throwing away their power when they communicate desire. So by communicating desire in a needy way. And the analogy I use between desire and neediness is that desire is neediness is like being hungry and you see a bowl of Kraft dinner. You're just like, oh man, neediness is, oh man, I'm super hungry. I gotta eat that. Desire is you've already eaten your fill. You're full. You've already had a really great meal, and then somebody puts an amazing dessert in front of you, and you're like, okay, I have all that I want, but I still really, really, really want that. All right, and that's the kind of desire you want to communicate. That's the kind of desire that doesn't throw away your power. All right, so some ways that you can, some simple and safe moves you can use to communicate your desire, either on a date or when even when you first meet a woman that you're interested in. Just starting with saying things like, "I like that." So you might say, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, well, I'm a researcher at the university." "Oh, I like that. That's interesting." Okay, you can just start with stuff like that, showing like, "Okay, I think that's cool. I'm into that." Then you can go deeper. When if she's reacting well to that, there's a little bit of a flirty vibe going on. You can start saying things like, "That's hot." And I like saying stuff like, I like saying "that's hot" to stuff that's like, I like saying it as a joke. So a woman might say, "Oh my gosh, I watched Doctor Strange last week, and that was a good movie." I'll be like, "You like comic book movies? That's hot. I like that." All right. Why? Because I want to communicate desire. I want to do it, and this is about doing it in a really safe and simple way. You can be way bolder with stuff like that. And then you go, stop doing that. You're turning me on. Again, when she does something that you like, and with that one, that's a great one, because if she does like you, if she is into you, what she's probably going to do is when you say "stop doing that, you're turning me on," she's probably going to do it more, and in which case you show more desire. You pull her into you a little bit. All right. And this is the thing: if you make her feel desired for something, you will get more of it. If you don't make her feel desired for it, you'll get less. And this is important when a woman makes a move on you. All right. And sometimes a woman makes a move on you. Like, women have bad game. Okay. So sometimes a woman will make a move on you, and it'll just be really bad game. It'll be really obtuse. It'll go way past you. So, you might be talking to a woman, and again, something that's happened is like, you're talking to a woman and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm just in here from out of town." She's like, "Oh wow, that's really cool. Wait, so where are you staying?" I'm like, "Oh, just at the W Hotel." It's like, "Oh, is that far?" And if you don't, she's asking like, "Is that far?" She's hinting at coming back to my hotel room, probably. But so she's putting herself out there. If I make her feel good for asking that question and for making that move in my direction, things are going to go forward. But if I am totally clueless and I go like, why are you trying to, well, why do you care how far away the W Hotel is? Like, what, you're going to drink everything in my in the minibar, like, and make some joke out of it? She's going to go, this guy doesn't get it. Attraction goes from 10 to 0 right there, because I just blew it. All right. So if you don't make her feel desired, she puts a move out there, I don't make her feel desired for it, I'm going to get less. Sometimes you can get into difficult situations with this too, when a woman might open up to you, but you don't really know how to react to it. So she might say, "Oh, I really liked our second date. I want you to come to my sister's ballet recital, and you can meet my family." And you're like, I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I like you, but I don't. And I like you. I appreciate, I guess, that you want to invite me out to this, but I don't want to go to this thing. All right. In that case, again, make her feel desired. Make her feel good for asking you, and then say no. So, and you answer exactly like, "Oh, I really think it's awesome that you invited me to this, but I think it's a little early to meet your parents, and I also have I'm busy this week." All right. Another thing you want to realize is that being desired turns her on. This is not something that men easily understand, because we don't desire to be desired the way that women desire to be desired. For man, desire is it's like hunger, right? If I'm hungry, I want a hamburger. If I desire a woman, I want her, but it's a similar kind of thing. I mean, it's a bad analogy, but it's true. It's a similar kind of emotion. But for women, they don't necessarily desire men the way that that they desire a hamburger. In fact, it's more like if you had you saw the hamburger and you thought, I want that hamburger to want me to eat it. And if that sounds crazy, it kind of is, but that's why guys have a hard time understanding. That's why Sigmund Freud couldn't answer the question of what do women want. She doesn't want the hamburger. She wants the hamburger to want her to eat it. And Sigmund Freud couldn't make that connection. It's weird, but that feeling of being desired actually turns her on. All right. So once you are in the right spot where you have that chemistry, you can show desire for her, and she's going to get turned on right back at you. And if you don't do that, if you go, "Are you turned on?" She's going to go, "No, I'm not. You need to do something else." And if you go, "You look fucking gorgeous. I want you," then she's going to get turned on. All right. Counterintuitive. That's why it's not easy to figure out. And then the last thing is, again, there's a lot of dating advice for guys that says playing hard to get is a good strategy. I don't really believe playing hard to get is, at the very least, it's very tricky. I think most guys who do this stuff, they screw it up. They don't do it well. And basically, I don't think that you should play hard to get. You should play a man who is powerful and has integrity, and who also has other things going on in his life. So you actually are a little bit hard to get. You do work a lot, or you do have priorities in your life, and you don't just sort of drop everything to hang out with a woman that you're interested in. You should do that, but you should not play hard to get. And things like not replying to emails or text messages or phone calls or something like that, never ever do that on purpose. If you're busy enough that happens every once in a while, no problem. You get a pass. But if you do it on purpose, you're just making things harder for yourself. So guys, I'd like to start a conversation here, and we're going to go into the Q&A, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an exercise. All right. So I want you to think about your last 3 interactions with a woman. So if you got your pen and paper right in front of you right now, or you got your notepad in front of you, just on your computer maybe. Just write down, what were the 3 last romantic interactions with a woman. So, and I'm not talking about like the girl at Starbucks who you buy coffee from, but maybe somebody you went on a date with, somebody or somebody you almost went on a date with, or where there was a little bit of chemistry there and then it disappeared. So, if you can write down the last 3 instances of that, and then go through what happened and ask yourself, did I express power? Did I create trust? Did I express desire? And you can share the story in the text here. We can go over it right now, or you can share it in the Facebook group over the next couple of days. Pick one of them, or all of them if you like, but share it and see if we can find some. We can learn from one another's stories and learn from one another's mistakes, and find some common threads. Because I want you guys to see how this theory actually works in practice. And then I want you to think about your next interaction with the woman. So the next date you go on, what do you need to work on? So what are the things that where do you think you've been having difficulty in the recent past? And what are you going to do to create trust, communicate power, show desire on your next date? Again, you can bring this up, talk about this in the Facebook group, or on or in the Charisma Decoded classroom, and we can go over this a little bit, because I think I'll be able to give you guys some maybe more specific suggestions on what you can do. So let's see if we got some messages here. We got Darren says, "Don't flake." It's true. Rit says, "What would be a good answer?" But I don't know when exactly he sent that. So what the question he's talking about was. Does anybody have any recent stories were they or any questions relating to this class so far? Let's have a look here. So Rand says desire is a problem. Desire is the two big things that most guys, big problems that most guys have are power and desire. Trust is usually just a little bit of it's something that comes up in relationships a little bit, or it comes up when you're really anxious talking to a woman and you don't show integrity when you're talking to them. But power and desire are the big ones, and especially like sexual shame. Okay, Rand says, I went on a desire. Conversation was good, but I don't think I expressed desire. So many guys do that. Guys who get in the friend zone. If you don't sexualize things, and again, it's not sexualizing things. It's not like talking about sex in a hypothetical kind of manner. Like, hey, have you, did you watch this sexy movie? Like, that's not going to get you where you want to go. It's about communicating that desire, and so it's finding the things about her that you like about her, and letting her know it, letting her feel like you think she's sexy. You guys, I don't want to underestimate. Like, I want to explain to you guys like how powerful this is for women. If you ever watch like like Maury Povich or one of those like daytime TV shows, or you ever see these examples of women who date guys who are like total train wrecks, they'll always be like, okay, Maury Povich will be like, okay, so this guy, he burnt down your home, he crashed your car, he got into a fight with your parents, he sold off all of your plates and your cutlery to buy meth, but you still love him? And then the woman will say, yeah, I do, Maury. You know why? Because he makes me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. And you're like, what the hell? So this guy, that's how powerful the feeling of being desired is. She feels like the most beautiful woman in the world, so she's willing to put up with a guy who's a complete train wreck, right? All right, so let's see. So Rand, just start with communicating that desire. Sina says, recently I had a date with a girl with a cold approach. We made out on the beach. At some point, the topic of her birthday came up, and she was younger than me, and I was weirded out by it, and my face was shocked. All right, she noticed. Yeah, she offered to take an Uber home instead of me driving her. Took her home anyways, and we set up a second date. At the moment she agreed. 2 days later, she texted me by saying, there isn't much chemistry, you won't be seeing me again. Yeah, okay, so there's the thing. You found out her age. You were like, oh, yeah, you made her feel scorned. You made her feel rejected. And attraction just died there. That's a tough one, man. It's tough when if you let something logistical or something like logical get in the way of getting between you and her and your chemistry, oftentimes it breaks the chemistry in a way that you can't fix, right? You can't undo it, or you can undo it if you address it like right away, like really, really quickly. So one thing that I have had, I have this theory. There's a one kick at the can rule, which is when a woman wants to hook up with you, when she's really close to hooking up with you, it has to happen then, or else you don't get a second chance. So if a woman is like, oh yeah, come back to my place, and you're like, oh man, it's like 5 a.m. and I got to work at 9. So you know what? I'm going to go back to my place because I really need to sleep because I've got a really important meeting tomorrow. You might think, oh, well, she was going to go home with me at 5 a.m. I could probably just call her up again next week, and we can make a plan for Wednesday. We go out for dinner and start where we left off. That doesn't happen. In my experience, that never ever happens. You had that chance at 5 a.m. and you said no. You said, I care about my meeting tomorrow morning more than I care about hooking up with you. And women basically get insulted by that. And if you want to look at it from a biological point of view, from like an evolutionary point of view, if you have genes that cause you to pass up sex for work or for money, evolutionarily those aren't actually good genes. I mean, they're good for your career. I don't dispute the decision itself, but I also understand how women might why women might not find that attractive, right? So Greg wants to know, how do you telegraph desire without losing your own value? Tough to do that without getting lumped in with everyone else, right? First of all, you have to establish your value first. So you have to distinguish yourself before you show that value, before you show desire. And then once you've distinguished yourself, showing desire doesn't lump you back in with everybody else. Again, that sounds like you are quoting other pickup stuff that probably tries to tell guys they're not just supposed to show that they like women. And it sounds like you're quoting other pickup advice that is bad advice, if you ask me. Brian says, met a girl at a festival. We were working at tons of chemistry, but after we didn't hang out for weeks, tried to keep the vibe flirty through text, but when we met up in person, there was no chemistry. That's a tough one. Yeah, that's. I mean, things can fizzle over text. I mean, the fact she met up with you meant that there was something there. Obviously, she met up with you. There's trust. I think there was probably some power there. You probably had to show desire. You know, and that'll happen a lot, right? Because it is, it can be your mood. You know, you when you met at the festival, energy was high. You were like, oh yeah. Then you meet up at a coffee shop, and it's like you're still there, but you don't feel as comfortable maybe being sexual and showing desire as much, and that contrast kills the chemistry. Yong says, I met a woman online. We had a date scheduled, but I had a work issue come up. I texted her to suggest drinks or dinner another time, and she replied, you seem too busy for me, and I don't know. All right. Yeah, here's the deal. If you flake on a woman, make it clear that you want to see her. This is really important. Women are pretty forgiving over scheduling conflicts and stuff like that, but she has to feel like you want to be there with her. Oh, Derek, do you want to come in and join us?
Yeah,
all right,
join in.
Derek's going to join in.
Whoa. Hey, guys.
All right, so Drew says, I recently went on a date, and the way I think displaying my desire has always been tough for me, and I actually kept that in mind going into the date. At one point, I playfully made my intentions known. This girl is really cute and dorky, and there's one point where she even said on the date. Oh, we've got to wait for the rest of the...
I can comment on that first part. When you're talking about intentions, the analogy I've always used, not to rely on so many analogies, but it's kind of like taking a shortcut. You know, if you're taking the shortcut down a muddy path, you don't want to tiptoe through it. You got to go at full force. So a lot of the time when you're making moves and expressing your intent, you have to sort of be fully confident that what you're doing is going to work. Because if you walk on eggshells around it, it totally kills the whole vibe. They're attracted to that confidence, you know, that conviction we talked about in the last module. So when you leave that out of it, it doesn't come across the same way at all. Even though in your head you may be thinking, this is the safe way to do it though. This way I avoid any rejection. But that's not the case. And if anything, it makes rejection a lot more likely. So when you're communicating that, just be bold. Don't be afraid to say it. In fact, you should say it with a smile on your face to say like, yeah, I really just said that. And that's the best way to do it.
So Drew says in the follow-up,
she
said, yeah, but I'm weird and I talk a lot. And he replied, damn right, but you're sexy weird. The best kind of weird, like a hot nerd. And she laughed and she liked it. I think that is exactly the right thing to say.
Yeah,
that's a perfect example of showing desire for something that she sees as a unique part of herself. So like it creates a good connection between the two of you, and it's showing desire in a non-needy way whatsoever. So that's exactly the kind of thing that you want to be saying. And then we got one. Alan says, does lack of desire work the other way? Can you be really attracted to someone and then lose that attraction if she doesn't make you feel desired?
I mean, I would say no. It really depends on the guy, I think, if you're someone that needs that. But I wouldn't say that's true amongst guys the same way it is amongst women.
Again, yeah, I don't think guys ever really experience the desire to be desired the way that women do. I mean, I certainly, for me with a woman, I certainly I don't, a really hot woman who doesn't like me that much. I mean, I wouldn't date a woman who didn't like me very much or who wasn't very interested in me, and definitely like when a woman shows a lot of interest in you, I think it does help create that chemistry. But for women, it's something where it'll just turn it from like 11 or 12 to like 0 and back up again. So so you can't really do you can't do that. Can I put myself in her shoes and see what would I want if I were in her shoes? Because men and women, unfortunately, when it comes to sexuality, we come from very, very different perspectives. And it's really hard to do that empathizing with women the way that you might for another guy, where you just go, okay, what would I like if I was in this guy's situation? We can't really do that simple sort of thought experiment between the genders, which is a source of all of endless conflict and discussion.
Darren has a good question. He says, how, when talking about power, when in a social circle, a girl pokes fun and speaks over me in front of everyone, bringing me down in some way around everyone? How do I react? I got a couple answers to this. I mean, one, as a guy, we have several advantages. One being we, usually speak in a louder tone. Not that you should yell over people to try to get the people's attention, but I mean, in some ways I look at this question and I'm kind of like, oh, he added this, sorry. That happens to me more times than I thought. When you pointed it out when going over power, I noticed that I need to fix that now. Anyway, my answer to this is just, usually when I speak, you should develop a voice that actually has that sort of power to it. It's called speaking from the diaphragm. I recommend looking into exercises that, or maybe even taking lessons, singing lessons or public speaking lessons will sometimes teach this. And if you speak from your diaphragm, you have a commanding voice, you actually will naturally get people to kind of look at you and notice you. And so in that way, the problem kind of is like, it's not really an issue because you'll be able to get the attention. But if it's an issue where she's purposely trying to steal the group away from you, in those situations, I would just kind of look at her, almost like impressed that she did it. And then I'd wait for her to finish. And then when she's done, I'd look at her and say, you know what? I like you. And then something like, me and you would never get along though, because we'd always fight. So something like that. So kind of like taking it and twisting it to be more like, you know what, you kind of just tried to put me down, but that actually makes me more attracted to you, because that never happens to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what kind of situation this is happening in.
Yeah, context is huge here.
Because it could be that you're doing something to provoke it, in which case maybe you want to just dial back and be more relaxed. It could be just that girls being cheeky, and you just for the most part you just let it happen. Don't overreact. Don't overreact to it at all. A lot of the time, if somebody pokes a little bit of fun at me and speaks over me in front of people, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably not gonna react to it at all. I might go, "Oh, that's a good one," or "You're right. I am a big nerd," and I'll just agree with it and keep on going. If it's something that is if it's a little bit mean spirited, let's say, and not just like friendly joking around, then I might I would call her out. And one thing, whenever you're in these when you're in an antagonistic social situation, one good strategy is to always say exactly what's going on. It's just like, so what are you trying to take me down? Are you trying to make me feel self-conscious? And that is usually a very, very powerful retort if you're in that kind of situation. But it also escalates things, so you might not want to do that. Usually, my inclination is, if it might be friendly, I just treat it like it's friendly. The way that a daddy lion, when the little cub jumps at him and bites at him and growls at him, it's just like, okay, yes, continue to practice your lion skills.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, so Alan says, can you walk us through an example where you built trust, power, and desire in a single conversation? Good question. I do have So I will explain one of our openers that we use, that we tell a lot of guys to use, that I think does a good job of creating trust, power, and desire in a single conversation. And this is it's just a plain old direct opener, which is, hey, I saw you back there, and I thought you were absolutely gorgeous. I had to come over and say hi. My name's Chris. Just put out your hand. And that's the standard day game opener and night game opener, direct opener that we tell guys to use. And the reason why it works is because it hits trust, power, and desire all at the same time. So now, in my theory, I tell you guys, you got to have trust and power before you can communicate desire. And with this opener, you're doing all three at the same time. And it works when you can deliver it in a way that creates trust and desire, or trust and power. So if you walk up confidently and you say, hey, I saw you back there and I thought you were absolutely gorgeous. I had to come over and say hi. My name's Chris. You looked, you look like you have this classy style going on. I bet you work in a big office building downtown. If you say that and you say it the right way, with the right body language, with a lot of confidence, with a lot of power in the way that you present it, you're going to find that it works really, really well. All right. If you're well dressed and have good delivery, that is going to work like killer for you. Okay. If you don't have the body language down, if you deliver it in a hesitant kind of way, it's going to work much less good for you because you're communicating a lot of desire, which is good, but you're not. It's that opener doesn't. The words or nothing in there necessarily communicates desire, communicates power. But when it all comes together, that works really, really, really well. So that's a very simple example of a line that can create all those three things.
There's been a few comments there.
So Darren asked, brush it off. Doesn't it show a lack of power if I let her off doing it? No, it does not show a lack of power. If somebody's just making a friendly joke, it doesn't show any lack of power at all. If somebody's actually being mean-spirited towards you, you definitely want, you don't necessarily want to just let it pass. But if it's not mean-spirited, don't worry about it at all, right?
Yeah, a guy that flips his lid over the smallest little thing is someone who's actually insecure. Yeah. It communicates the opposite. So, yeah.
And again, usually my reaction with stuff like that is, laugh, like, oh, you're getting cheeky. Like, underreacting is usually the way to go. Treating it like it's not a threat. No matter what happens, you want to underreact. Even if it is mean, you want to be like, oh, somebody's feeling a little salty today. Mm-hmm. And that's it, right? Because you're not somebody, you don't need to respond to somebody who's not important being being in a bad mood, basically.
So Drew asked, Chris, I love that opener, but I find it difficult to do when in a group. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Isn't it important to open the whole group rather than just that one woman? Direct openers, you don't need to open. I mean, I would still open the whole group, but it doesn't necessarily need to be opening the entire group. You just address the whole group. So if I'm using a direct opener with a whole group of girls, I'll usually just go in and say, hey, sorry guys, you guys are all really cute, but there's something about you I had to come over and say hi. What's your name? And then it's gonna be a bit awkward, obviously, because all her friends are kind of looking at her to see how she's gonna react to that. And then, but you can break the ice or relieve the tension a little bit by even calling that out by saying, I'm totally putting you on the spot right now, and I realize that. But I had to come over and say something. What do you guys have to say anyway? And you can kind of push it away and then talk to the group a little bit. She's gonna be impressed you did that. You didn't really put her on the spot, but not in a way that she's gonna be embarrassed in front of her friends anymore if you let the tension fizzle out there. And then engage the group for a little bit, and then work your way back talking to her. You can be at that point, once the group likes you, they'll allow you to sort of sit there with her and talk without needing to engage them all. So that's usually how I do it.
Brian has a really good question. He says, I feel like a struggling artist in New York City, power is a major sticking point. In particular, I feel like I live in a particularly materialistic city and work in the film and fashion worlds, and it's just always at the bottom of the totem pole. And I think that I've noticed that in different cities as well. You have different cities that have a different idea of what power is or what of what living the good life is. So when you go to Paris, everybody wants to be more of an intellectual and more sophisticated and cultured than everyone else, and if you impress Parisians with your sophisticatedness and your culturedness, then they're like, oh, this guy is cool. If you go to LA, it's like, who do you know in the film business, basically? And it's not materialistic in terms of like just cash, but it's about connections. It's about social circles. And then you go to other places and it's all about money. You go to other places, it's like, who's the most authentic? Like in Germany, in Berlin, it's like authenticity. You have to be 100% authentic, and having money in any way is like basically bad. And they have these other ideas, and so the big thing is you have to perceive yourself. If you have to perceive yourself as powerful according to your own terms. So you got to be proud of what you do. So I work in the film world. I am making amazing movies. These movies are my thoughts. I am affecting the world with my thoughts. That is what I'm doing. And you will find that women buy into it. They may not meet you already seeing that as something powerful, but if you believe it strongly enough, then she will come around to your point of view. And that's that's what being integrated and having your beliefs and your values corresponding with the actual goals and the things you want to do in life. That's where that comes into play. And you'd be surprised how flexible women are on these things, and how much you can change a woman's perspective. They often come into the interaction with a very standard or very not well thought out idea of what a powerful man is. But when they meet somebody who really has that charisma, they come around very quickly.
I don't know about you. Every woman in New York City that I've met over 25 is sick of all the really Wall Street dudes, the banking dudes, the guys that are in New York City chasing that dollar. They're sick of them. And whenever I went there, I've always met women that find it so refreshing to have someone that in this case being me or even my students, that isn't like that. And I think it's one of the few cities in the U.S. That feels like you have kind of an advantage as just a regular dude in New York City, where money doesn't help you as much as it does other places. So, I mean, that may not be true, but certainly if your money comes from Wall Street, or you're one of those guys that's really chasing that dollar, that's, work, all that sort of stuff, they're not really, a lot of those guys are complete dickheads.
And the big thing is you have to go in there with the belief that you're better than these guys. And, it might be good to even think about, why are you better than these guys? Like, if you met a girl who's really, really hot, and the last 5 guys she's dated have been Wall Street millionaires, what would she like about you, right? Imagine that girl, the hardest girl to get, if that's the kind of girl you want. What would she like about you? Well, there's plenty. Don't overestimate these Wall Street guys, man. Like, they're not necessarily interesting. They're workaholics. They don't have a lot of stuff that you have, right? And you gotta play on that. You gotta show that. And if a girl says like, "Oh yeah, I usually date Wall Street guys," you gotta have the reaction like, "That must be boring." So, are you sick of that yet? Come over to Brooklyn. I'll show you where the cool people hang out. And if you have that, if you go in with that attitude, most women will come around to that. A really hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool, like narcissist, materialistic woman will not change her viewpoints, but that's fine. You don't want to date those girls.
Yeah, women don't necessarily care about success as much as they care about passion and aspirations, and those are almost just as good, especially in a field like film.
Yeah, man, Brian. Yeah, being proud of your work. That's it. Like, just be super proud of it, and be able to explain like, why are you proud of your work? You want to be the king of your own domain. So you also want to be able to argue like, why is the stuff that I'm doing in the film world, why is it going somewhere? What's the plan that I have with it? Am I actually just trying to make money, or do I have a vision? And when you have a vision, you can describe it to women, and they can buy into it. But if it's just like, hey, I'm just trying to keep a roof over my head, and I'm doing it by being in film, that's not inspiring, right? You're gonna have a hard time. Convincing women that you're a powerful man with that kind of attitude. Instead, it's got to be like, I want to make a movie that's like this, or something like that. That big vision. So, okay, Young says, she said, you don't have enough time for me. Do you reply back, listen, I was actually legitimately busy for work. I really want to see you again. When are you free? Have you said, I want to see you? All right.
Guess we're waiting for
Young. There's a little time delay between these guys getting the video and us getting the chat back. So, all right. Yeah, just be like, listen. So what's going on is she's being very sensitive to the fact that you canceled on her. Unfortunately, with this stuff, again, trust is something that you can break, but you can't just put it back together again. Right, and so it's a hard one to fix, but the best thing to do is just to explain and be firm with it. But yeah, at the end of the day, unfortunately, with trust, it's not something you can unbreak, and it's a little odd that her trust is broken so quickly. That's usually not a good sign. Like women who have trust issues. Women who have trust issues have other issues. It might be a bit of a problem, but yeah, that's all I can say.
Greg is a good question. He basically, you're a puddle when you come to truly amazing people, and by amazing, I'm assuming you mean good looking and interesting and whatnot. But you don't have any of those problems with girls that don't intimidate you or that you're not attracted to. Look, here's the thing: the hottest girl you can think of, really smoking hot women, they have really gross smelling farts. They puke. They fall down in public. They say really dumb things that they get really embarrassed about and look like a complete idiot. All these things that make people real have happened to them too. They just happen to be, really good looking, and maybe only from your personal taste. Who knows? If they're good looking to everybody or whatnot. So one thing you got to understand is that even the hottest women sometimes can be just as human and insecure as all the other ones.
Totally.
So, and sometimes even more so. So yeah, I mean, that's one thing. I started dating obviously more attractive women, and then once you start doing that, you see these things, that all these gross things that you don't even think about being associated with them, they do too, or embarrassing things, whatnot. And it really brings it down to earth for you that women, they're all people, and if you can look at them from that point of view, you can act the same way in front of all of them. Looks is a bonus, but even that fades. So it's, you have to stop seeing that as sort of the litmus test of whether or not they're valuable or not, because it's really very little. So
seriously, around truly amazing people, I'm presuming truly amazing women, go in with the attitude that she likes you.
Yeah.
Like, it's way harder to do, but you'd be really surprised. And here's the thing, I think really, really beautiful women have a super hard. They have a hard life. They have a hard time dealing with things. People are always wanting stuff from them. They have trouble trusting people. They have their high school friends all fell in love with them and got all weird and stuff like that. And so I feel bad for them. I would not want to be a really beautiful woman if I could change spots or anything like that. I wouldn't do it, despite the fact that in some ways maybe people think that they have it easy. So if you have that attitude, if you recognize it, it's totally not easy, totally hard, totally not easy for her, and you act like what she needs is a confident, cool dude who's got that inner power, who desires her, and who has integrity. That's the big thing. That's the big thing that beautiful women actually probably have the hardest thing to find is guys with integrity. They meet rich guys, they meet guys who desire them, they meet powerful men. But integrity is the big thing that they often lack, and have a hard time finding in men. And so if you have the attitude that like, hey, listen, I'm better than all these dudes on one ground, and it's the most important one, you can walk in there with a kind of swagger that makes you attractive and distinguishes you from all the other men that she meets.
Darren asked, basically, to talk about his job. Feels like it's boring. He works as an electrician. Look, there's no job that's by the definition boring.
Well, they're all boring when you get down to them.
If you think your job is boring, then it absolutely is. And I don't mean literally. I just mean in the sense of explaining it to women.
I spent all day working on a PowerPoint presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yet when we tell women what our jobs are, they sound like the most exciting. I mean, at the basic level, even the most exciting jobs are basically just paperwork. So the reality isn't necessarily something you should use as an example. But the idea is that mostly what they're interested in is passion. You're passionate about your job. If you're not passionate about your job, ask yourself the question: what is it that in your job that you get to do that makes you happy? Is it the job itself? Is it the security that it gives you? Is it sometimes, I mean, money isn't really a good answer, but sometimes that's what that money enables you to do, can be an answer, in terms of chase your passions, or you have a hobby that you like to, maybe it's expensive, that job allows you to do. Those are good answers. But I mean, the reason why women ask you what your job is, because they assume, I think rightfully, that men choose jobs in which describe their personality a little bit. And you need to understand that. So you need to ask yourself the question, why is it you chose that? And answer it with that in mind. And that's the best answer.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming to lesson number 3. I hope you guys had a really good time. If you're liking this course so far, I'm gonna add a link to. I'm gonna give you guys a link to Trustpilot if you want to write a little review for us about how the course is doing. How the course is doing so far, and it's been really awesome spending the evening with you guys. And if you want to go through some more of those exercises and think about what you can do this week to develop more power, to develop more integrity, and to communicate your desires, that's the assignment for the next until Thursday, basically. Communicating that power by being assertive, communicating desire if you're on a date or you're with a woman that you like, and acting with integrity around anyone.